between the first one and the fourth one, uh, what do you feel like has changed in your parenting style and your attitude towards being a father?
You become a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
I remember when the older one was a baby, if he'd fallen, we'd be like, oh. But now we realize, with the third and fourth, it's like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You can get up, you can deal with it.
This video is kindly sponsored by Read Mentor School, which are an online independent Muslim school for children aged 6 to 16, where you can get the British National Curriculum full-time education alongside your Islamic values and Islamic studies. Do check them out on readmentorschool.com.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the Dadhood podcast. And today, inshallah, we're going to be having somebody who's coming on as their first time on a podcast. And we have a brother here who's a father, who's an author, who has an amazing story. Before we get into that, and before I introduce the guest, for those of you who are new, this is the podcast where we interview Muslim fathers and we talk to them about their fatherhood journey and other unique experiences that they've had. We also have a newsletter. So if you check the description, wherever you're listening to this episode from, you'll be able to find the link to our newsletter. We've also recently started a WhatsApp community for Muslim fathers. And our guest here, alhamdulillah, is part of the community as well. So please do come forward, inshallah, click on the link to join the WhatsApp community and join us in some general discussions, updates about dadhood, and connecting as well with some of the podcast guests that we have. So that is a community for all fathers, inshallah, to join into. So we'll get into the episode. Today, we have our dear brother Wasim Hamid, who's with us. And he's actually somebody who's local to me. We've met each other at a local masjid beforehand. And he kindly reached out to me and told me about this incredible story that he's had and that has kind of landed him to becoming an author now. And so we're going to get into his book, which I have right here, which is The Life of This World by Wasim Hamid. And but before that, more importantly, he's a father. And that's what we want to discuss first of all. So, assalamu alaikum, Wasim. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam. Jazakallah khair for having me. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair for coming on. Really appreciate you reaching out to me and letting me know about the project, about your book and things like that. I was very pleased to hear about it. And I have to be honest to everybody that I haven't started reading this yet. I've got a copy, but I haven't read it. But I do still have some questions from the short parts that I have read. So let's go back a bit and we'll ask you the question we ask to every guest, which is, how old were you when you became a father and how many children do you now have?
So I was actually a late father in terms of how old I was when I had my first child. So I was actually 35 when I had my first child. Alhamdulillah, I have 4 children now. So I have 3 boys and a girl. My oldest boy is 16. My daughter is 14. And then I have a 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, that's amazing. So take me back to when you were 35 then, which it doesn't seem like it was a long time ago from looking at you. So what was that like? So you're saying it was quite late on, which I think generally from the podcast guests that I've had, is probably in the later stage. I think we have had other fathers who have also had their children in their 30s, but most of them probably in their 20s, right? So was that a conscious decision? Like, I'm going to wait until certain things have happened in my life? Or was it just, qadar Allah, that was just a situation that I only managed to, get married and be in that situation by then?
Yeah, no, it was qadar of Allah. It was, as you read from the book, in my youth, I wasn't really on the deen in my younger age. Yes, I was born and raised Muslim, and obviously I was in the faith, but I wasn't really on the straight path, and I was pursuing a career in music. So a lot of my sort of actually getting married, having children, was delayed just by circumstances. So alhamdulillah, people can read from the book, when I had my spiritual awakening, shall we say, which brought me back onto the deen, that's when I decided, look, I need to get back on, inshallah, get married. So I got married when I was 31. And then, it's qadr of Allah, alhamdulillah, Allah granted us with our first child when I was 35.
Alhamdulillah. So that's quite interesting. You're saying that, basically you weren't as religious in your younger days, right? Um, and it was only when you became more religious that you made marriage a priority. So why do you feel like when you were not so religious or not so practicing in Islam, that marriage wasn't a huge priority for you?
I think it's because, maybe a lot of youth struggle with this today. You're just sort of, you're in the trappings of this dunya, aren't you? You're chasing different things. You're chasing material things. You're chasing wealth. You're chasing, pleasures. So, I think that's probably why. But once you realize what the true nature of existence is, and you realize what's important, and I think that was it for me. You realize what's important in this life, and obviously, you know, completing your faith and getting married, and you know, getting married is half of your deen. So, then it became a priority.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense because I feel like it's interesting that a lot of people have that experience that they don't really think about getting married until they've had that transition, like it's explained in your book, right? Um, and that's when they kind of it dawns upon them, oh, actually, marriage is a big part of my life and is a big part of my religious journey and is a big part of me, I guess, fulfilling the purpose that I've been sent down to fulfill or I've been created to fulfill. But prior to that, you're kind of just very much just looking at what interests you, what are kind of the sort of desires that you can pursue and the goals that you can pursue, and it's not really grounded in maybe what your creator, your maker, ideally wants you to do. Yeah, so I find that quite interesting because I have conversations with a lot of young brothers when it comes to marriage, and they say, for example, I'm waiting to be able to have a certain amount of money or to be able to be experienced, I guess, in maybe more mature is what they mean, to be more mature in a certain way, and be having some sort of, I guess, reputation in a way, and it, over time that kind of then delays them from what they could really be doing, which is starting that family life a lot earlier. And yes, some of those things is right. Like you should have a certain amount of finance, you should have a certain level of maturity. But sometimes what happens as a young person is all these other things are a lot more shiny. And it's like, okay, let me make sure I've collected all these things before I go to there. And unfortunately, it kind of sometimes can delay people. But alhamdulillah, the way that, we've discussed in terms of how your life went, it seems like everything was written for you at its perfect moment, right?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Which is what is the case for everybody, actually. If we reflect back on our life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created our life with certain moments that at the time we don't think that's the perfect moment for certain things. But actually, in hindsight, when you look back, yes, actually, that was the best situation for us, and it's brought about now an even better situation. So it's the same thing for you when you look back at, okay, well, I got married at 31, but that was probably the best time for me to get married. And having children at 35, actually, that probably was the best time for me to have children, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Everything is written qadr of Allah, so we accept whatever fate comes our way, and whatever situation, alhamdulillah. I think, going back to what your earlier question, which we didn't get around to, was when I had my first child.
Yeah.
That was an absolutely amazing experience. I think my wife probably won't be too pleased me telling the world about it, but alhamdulillah, it was, as a father and as a man, the whole experience was amazing. I mean, it was quite a difficult labor. So, it was 18-hour labor. And, my mother-in-law was it was me and my mother-in-law in the room. And, seeing, as a man, seeing your wife go through that, excruciating pain is very difficult. And I remember at the point before, he was being born, an hour before he was born, he was actually coming. The head we could see the head, and as far as I thought it was going to happen any minute now. But it took another hour and my wife was pushing and pushing, and the midwife was just kept encouraging her to push, and then all of a sudden my wife said, I can't do it anymore, I can't push anymore. And I mean, subhanallah, my mother-in-law, she's obviously seeing her daughter go through that. She knew what was happening. I was just saying, you can do it, keep pushing, sort of encouraging. But my mother-in-law, subhanallah, she pressed the red button, the emergency button. And then the midwife, the head midwife came in. And as soon as she saw what was happening, she understood that actually my son was actually coming the wrong way, which is why he wasn't coming out. So she quickly said, look, just give me one last push. And as my wife did that, the head midwife pulled him out, had to twist him around the other way because he was coming back to back.
Yeah.
Had he been coming the normal way, the pushing would have worked, but because he was coming back to back, which, would have been really painful. But the minute she pulled him out, just seeing my wife in that absolutely excruciating pain, at the minute she pulled him out, turned him around and put him on my wife's chest. Subhanallah, I've never witnessed anything so amazing in my life. Seeing my wife in the most excruciating pain, and then in the split second, as soon as my son was put on her chest, transitioning from the most extreme pain to the most extreme happiness, the smile and just the joy that came over, both of our all of our faces really, but my wife's face particularly, because she's done all the hard work. SubhanAllah, that was just amazing to witness. Absolutely amazing. And it's in the book.
Oh, that's amazing. Do you recommend that fathers be there at the birth? Because
yes, absolutely,
there's a culture that exists in different cultures around the world, in fact, that actually the man is not supposed to be there, right? So what do you think? I mean, clearly you feel like that was something that was beneficial for you to see and to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, of course, I understand. Obviously, circumstances don't allow, but if you can, to experience that together is magical. Alhamdulillah. I was at my daughter's birth, my third son's birth, and they were equally sort of amazing. Just this is the process that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has created for us. And it's something amazing to witness and to behold. But due to some unfortunate circumstances, which we may come into later, but it's in the book, I couldn't be there for my fourth son's birth, which I was really, really upset and disappointed and quite sad about.
Right.
But alhamdulillah, the qadr of Allah, we accept whatever he puts in our path.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, and so after now you've got 4 children. So you were 35 when you had your first child, and now a few years later you've got 4 children. Between the first one and the fourth one, what do you feel like has changed in your parenting style and your attitude towards being a father?
I think when you have your first child, it's obviously your life changes, everything changes, priorities, sleeping, everything changes. So I think it's adjusting to your new life, which is to take care of this human being, which is a gift and an amanat from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. When we had our second child, our daughter, it was it was equally amazing. And obviously, you've now got a toddler and a baby, and it's the whole dynamics of the family changes, and it's it's a blessing. So alhamdulillah. And I think when we had our third and fourth child, obviously from a parenting perspective, of course it's tough, but it's such a blessing that you wouldn't change it for the world. And almost it's strange. My wife and I sometimes talk about this. Like when we had the first two, we were like everything's eggshells, and we were so careful with everything. But with the third and fourth, we just felt like obviously we had 2 ready-made babysitters in the oldest, but yeah, I don't know. You as a parent, I think you just really sort of you become a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
And you just, you like, I remember when the older one was a baby, if he'd fallen and hurt, we'd be like, oh, but now we realize, with the third and fourth, it's like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You can get up, you can deal with it. And I think that probably has been the biggest change that I've noticed. But alhamdulillah, it's such a blessing, and you wouldn't change it for the world.
Mashallah, that's amazing. Um, and in your fatherhood journey, and as you've explained to me, and you kind of go through it in your book, you've moved countries, and moved back as well. So I think we're gonna move over to the story, but before we do, um, a lot of people do think about this. They think about, okay, can I raise my family in another country? If I need to work in another country, can I take my family with me? If I can't, how do I maintain being a father and an active role as a father while my family are in a different country? So there's all these different questions about wanting to move abroad, because in a lot of people's mind, moving somewhere else is a big advantage to them, or has some, maybe it's a fantasy as well. Maybe there's something amazing about it for them. But then there's also a harsh reality of, it's not just about you, but then your whole family has to settle into a new society. And can you find a job? And can you actually take your family with you? And sometimes it might be that the job that you have is calling you to come abroad, and you have to leave your family behind. And can you weigh up the pros and cons there? Do you take that, which is possibly going to give you more money, and a great experience at the expense of not being around your family? So I just want to see what your experience was like as a dad in terms of moving for work and being with family, not being with family at certain points.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're in my journey. So what happened? So on our honeymoon, my wife and I, we went to Malaysia and Dubai on our honeymoon, and we loved both countries. And we thought, and we actually said, both of us said, I would love to move here one day.
Right.
And that was 2004. And a fast forward to 2011. So my older son was born, and my daughter was just born. The opportunity arose for me to move to Dubai because the company I was working for, which was a company called Data Center Dynamics, it was based in Liverpool Street.
Yeah.
I was looking after their Middle East business. So they had an event in Dubai, which, I was on a plane back and forth. I'd go for a week or two and, organize this event. And the opportunity arose, a year after doing that. I mean, for a year, I was just constantly on a plane, probably every 3 months going to Dubai, doing stuff and then coming back. And then the opportunity arose to move to Dubai. And I said to my wife, look, they wanted to set up the Middle East business. So I told them, look, if you want to be in the region, you need to be there. So they asked me to put a business plan together, had the discussion, they said, off you go. So when my wife and actually my daughter was 4 months, my son would have been just 2. And so my wife and my children, we all came to Dubai. So we spent a couple of weeks. My CEO said, look, just go have a look. And if the family like it, then, so we spent a couple of weeks, started to lay the groundwork. And then when we all came back, we agreed, yeah, we're going to go. So then in March of 2011, I went out and my wife and kids stayed back. I went out, I set up the business. I set up got our property, set everything up, for their arrival. And so from March to September, I was in Dubai setting everything up. And then in September, they joined me. And I think I must have come back once or twice in that time. But then in September, so I was away from the family for a period of about, 4 or 5 months, which was difficult. But because I was so busy setting everything up, I was quite occupied. But then alhamdulillah, in September, my wife and kids joined me. So Iman would have been just a year, and my son Ibrahim would have been 3 at the time. So then they joined us, and the quality of life in Dubai was great. We had a great life. And then Ahmed, who's our third son, was actually born in Dubai. So he was born there in 2013. So alhamdulillah, yeah, it was difficult not being with them, but it had to be done once. And I think for my wife, it was a lot easier because she just had to walk in and everything was done. House is set, furniture all done. She just had to walk in and start her life. And yeah, the quality of life in Dubai was great. So, it's very family orientated. The kids loved it. Just having the son is something which is and yeah, we had a great life while we were there.
MashaAllah. No, that sounds really good. It seems like it, alhamdulillah, that worked out for you. What advice would you give to fathers who are considering that move then with their family? Is there like anything in particular that you feel like a father should know to ensure that things go as smoothly as possible?
I think, obviously just make sure you've got everything in place. Make sure, unfortunately, there isn't that much security in Dubai in terms of, here you have citizenship, you have nationality, whereas over there, you're reliant on a visa, which could be, terminated. Or so just make sure there's a lot of bureaucracy that you need to go through, and I think, that 4 months that I had also, enabled me to get through all the bureaucracy, make sure everything is in place. So that it was a really smooth transition. I think that's really probably the main thing. Just make sure you've got all your ducks lined, everything lined up so that, the whole transition is smooth. Because otherwise, you go there and you're having to just juggle so many things. It can be a bit difficult.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alhamdulillah. Okay, I wanna get into the process behind this book. So, first of all, I want to know, why did you decide to become an author and write a book? So even before the story, like how does, and let me see how many pages this is. Right? How does 300 odd pages come about? Because as far as I know, we discussed before, you don't have a background in writing or publishing or journaling or anything like that, right? So how does somebody go about deciding I'm going to write 300 pages?
Yeah, subhanAllah. So basically, obviously, you've heard the sort of beginning of the Dubai story. The way things ended in Dubai was really crazy. I won't spoil it for most people, but happy to discuss if you wanted to. But when I came back from Dubai, it was such a crazy experience that we went through that, I had to rebuild my life from scratch, 4 kids, got into, unfortunately, because of the situation and because of what happened, huge debt. You hear stories of people leaving cars at airports and things like that. It was quite similar to that, but I had a little bit of time to sort out whatever I could sort out. But, I came back and just had to rebuild my life. And, I was trying to do different things. I was trying to start a business. I was, looking for things. Obviously, we had 4 kids, and the house that our property we were renting, so we had to live with our parents, and with 4 kids, it's quite difficult. So for the first year, we were living with our parents, and it was quite tough. When I went to my first job after coming back, and I was obviously telling people what happened and some of the crazy stories, and even the earlier crazy stories that happened in my life. All my friends were always telling me, you should write a book, and all these new work colleagues were saying, you should write a book. You should write a book about what happened. You should really write a book. And I never thought anything of it. I thought, I'm not an author. I've never really written a book.
Yeah.
But subhanAllah, 2022. I mean, I was in a lot of debt. And actually, it was my family who actually bailed me out of the situation that I found myself in Dubai. And, from 2015, when I got back, to 2022, I just saved and scrimped. We as a family never went on any holidays or any kind of, and I was just saving and to pay my family back. And it was a huge amount of money. It was £120,000 that they lent me to get myself out of the situation I was in Dubai. And I just saved and saved and saved. And it took me 7 years to pay my family back. So once I'd paid my family back, it was such a huge relief to have that debt off my shoulders. So I thought to myself, you know what? I said to my wife, look, for our first trip, let's go to Umrah. Let's go to Umrah. It would be the first time Yusuf's been on a plane, the youngest one. And, we can, do a shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for helping us out. And so we booked Umrah, we were traveling, we were about to go, visas done, hotels done, and out of the blue. So what happened is, because of the way I had to leave Dubai, I did have debts out there that were personal debts. So one of them was a car mortgage that I'd taken out. One was the business loan that I took to start my business, and the other one was a credit card that I had out there. So these debts were still on my shoulders, and I'd contacted all of those people, and I said, look, I'm not running. This is what's happened. Here, I'm in the UK. Here's my mobile number. Here's my email address. I do owe you. It's my duty. It's my haq to pay you, because you did loan me the money, so it's my duty to pay you. But my priority is to pay my family back. And once I've paid my family back, then I'll come and pay you.
It was like to such an extent. I saw in the book, as I was like going through, that you even reached out to celebrities to be able to clear some of that debt.
I did. I was desperate. I had so much. I owed so much money to my family, and I just wanted being in debt is not something that you want to be in, and I just wanted to get it out, get it off my shoulders in any way I could. So yeah, I went down that route. Didn't really get any response from anywhere, but
I have here. You said emails to David Beckham, Adele's manager, U2's manager, Guy Usse, Richard Branson, Ashton Kutcher, Cristiano Ronaldo, Brian Eno, Chris Martin, Steven Gerrard.
I did, yeah. All people that I liked and admired. I just thought, let me reach out to you. It was. Yeah, but I think there's only one person there's one being that we should be asking for help, and that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think I sort of transitioned that way thereafter, realizing nothing's going to happen. But yeah, no, I did try and reach out. I just wanted to have this debt off my shoulders, and I still do. And that's actually why I wrote the book, because what actually happened was, as we were about to go to Umrah, so just before, once I paid my family back, I contacted all of the banks that I owed money to in Dubai. And I said, listen, I've paid my family back now, so now I can start paying you. And so there's three debts in Dubai. One is, as I said, a credit card, a car loan, and a business loan that I took out. So the credit card company and the car loan company said, okay, great, yeah. And I said, look, I'm an employee. I don't have business. They were literally saying, right, pay it all now, pay it tomorrow. I'm like, look, money doesn't grow on trees. I'm a salaried employee. I can only pay you, monthly. So we agreed payment plans. And for 2-3 years, I've been paying them every month. And I've been doing that, for a couple of years. But one of the banks said, no, you have to pay it all now. And I'm like, well, look, I can't pay it all now. They said, well, no, we're not going to accept a small payment plan. Well, then I said to them, well, if that's the case, if that's what you're deciding, then you wait until Qadr of Allah. If Allah blesses me with rizq that I can pay you, wait for that day if you're not willing to accept the payment plan. So we left it at that, And then later on that year, so just literally a few weeks before we were supposed to go to Umrah, I got an email. So that bank had sent, obviously, my debt to a debt collection agency. Now, this debt collection agency has obviously gone on LinkedIn. He's seen my profile, seen where I work, and then emailed me at my work, gone onto the company's website, and then emailed me and about 30 of my colleagues just randomly and saying, where's Wasim Hamid? He owes us a lot of money. He's in a lot of trouble. We know he works with you. You need to tell him and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. So I had to obviously explain to people at my new workplace. And then I contacted him and I said, look, how dare you? That's so unprofessional. And he said, oh, you're just lying. You're living the high life. You think just because you're in the UK, you can escape this debt. And I said, no, absolutely not. And it was a very difficult and awkward conversation. In the end, he was threatening me with all sorts. He goes, I'm going to put you on Interpol, travel ban, this, that. And they just threaten you to scare you into paying. And I said, look, I've offered you a payment plan. If you want to take that, I'm still willing to do that now. And we can start from that. But he's like, no, you have to pay it all by next week. And I said, look, that's just, money doesn't burn trees. That's just not going to happen. Not realistic. Either accept the payment plan or wait till I call you once I have the funds. And so we left it at that, and that was all done. And then, I thought to myself, well, Interpol, and so I contacted a few solicitors, both in the UK and in Dubai. And I just wanted to understand my position. And most of them said, look, now you should be fine. I mean, they just threaten these things. But a couple of them did say, look, if they threatened you with Interpol, there is a chance. And I said, can I check? And they said, well, if you check the Interpol, that could put you on the Interpol. Because I think, why is this person checking? So, and a couple of them said, look, there is a risk. And they said there's a thing called the GCC poll, which is basically anyone who's on Interpol, anyone anywhere in the GCC, you could be on the poll. So I said to my family, I said, look, there is a risk. It's a small risk, but nevertheless a risk. If I arrive in Saudi, I could get extradited to Dubai, and the consequences of that would be devastating, because it means, right, I lose my job, I'm stuck, I'm back in Dubai, and then all of the debts fall back on my shoulders, and I can't leave. I'm stuck there again. And so, we said, look, it's just not worth the risk. It's just not worth the risk.
The Umrah
So
that you had planned is not going ahead then.
Yeah. December 2022. So what happened is my brother said, look, we want to go Umrah, so we'll go. So my wife, my mum, my kids, they all went and my brother and my brother's family. I stayed home alone for 2 weeks. I didn't go. They all went. I was home alone for 2 weeks.
How did that feel?
And I thought to myself, you know what? I was really disappointed, but as I said, everything, qadar of Allah, I said to myself, look, I really want to try and do something to get myself out of the situation. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to write this book. I'm going to put down what happened. I'm going to lay it all out.
So those 2 weeks of you not being on Umrah was the catalyst for you to be like, I've got the time now. I've got no distractions. I'm going to make this happen.
Absolutely. And that's what happened. And I didn't tell anyone. About it. I basically laid out the foundation, the plan, and it was subhanAllah. So obviously the idea was to do the memoir. And that was obviously the main starting point of the book, to just tell my life story, all the different crazy.
Which is for people who don't have the book. So there's 3 parts, right? So we've got part 1, which is my story. And then we've got part 2, which is like the purpose of life, or your reflections on what's the real purpose of us being here. And then the last part is basically, towards the end of this world, what is going to happen, and putting all kind of those things into context, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what happened really. So as I said, it was the memoir that was obviously the foundation of the book. So I started doing the memoir. And alhamdulillah, the whole experience of remembering my childhood, my adulthood, the crazy stuff I'd done then, the transition, the miraculous thing that happened to me that brought me back to Islam, that whole period, getting married. And as I was remembering all of these things, it was a really cathartic experience. It was really, you could call it therapeutic as well. It really opened me up. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to communicate my life's message to the world, I'm going to also communicate what I believe this world is about. What is the purpose of life? Why are we here? And, I'm not a theologian. I'm not a scholar in any way, shape or form. But I just thought, what I've understood, let me just put this on paper. Let me just communicate what I feel the purpose of life, and based obviously on all of the Islamic teachings that I've learned. And I just thought I'm just going to put it all out there, and that's what I did. Alhamdulillah, it was amazing. As I said, I didn't tell any of my family, and I got into such a good habit, because obviously I'm working full time. I still am, and I was back then. So how I did it was, I used to get up for Fajr and I used to go to the masjid every morning, which I've still maintained that habit. Alhamdulillah, go to the masjid, do Fajr, come back, and then I have 3 hours of complete silence, wife and kids all asleep, and I would just write. And I did that from December 22 to December 23, one whole year, just writing and in that time. And then as soon as, say between 5 and 8 o'clock, right, I'd down tools, wake the kids up, get them ready for school, drop them to school, go to work, come back, go to sleep, get up, next day, do the same thing. And I did that for a year, just writing this in a year without anyone knowing.
Alhamdulillah. That's amazing. Just on the point of the process of writing the actual book, I think we can take a lot of lessons from that as people and as fathers. You basically found a window of opportunity, and rather than you saying, "Oh, I can't go to Umrah, I'm just gonna, sit here and I'm gonna be a bit sad about it," you said to yourself, "You know what? Actually, let's view this as a positive. I've got 2 weeks distraction free. And the goal that I've always had and everything that everybody's been telling me to create a book and write a book and talk about my experiences, I'm going to use these 2 weeks to kickstart all of that." And then, and then beyond that, you've kind of, I speak to a lot of fathers. There's something that I do as part of this Dadhood project is, coaching fathers on sort of time management and achieving goals and things like this. And, a lot of them say, as a father, my time it's too stretched, right? I have to go work and I have to do a school run. Maybe I have to then, come home and we've got older kids, younger kids. I have to sort them out at different times and dinner and this and that. And, and helping my wife with whatever needs to be helped. By that time, and by the time everyone's in bed, I've barely got enough time to spend, a few moments with my wife, and then it's back to sleep. But what you found was, okay, let me analyze my day. So there is a couple of hours here where nothing happens. And if I can just take advantage of those couple of hours where nothing actually happens, something amazing as a whole book of 300 plus pages could come out of it. And that's what I'd like everybody to really, realize is that, yes, as fathers, we're super busy. Yes, we have so many things going on. But if we just do an audit of our day and our week, we can find those hours. And if we make a sincere intention to utilize those few key hours, even just utilizing those hours, as long as you utilize them consistently, like you did, which is every day you stuck to that routine, something amazing can come out of it, which is
alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, no, exactly. I think the lesson is, you'll be amazed at what you can do once you put your mind to it. And I think that for me, that's what happened. I that 2-week Umrah just really, just not being able to go to Umrah with my family, because it really spurned me on and said, like, you know what, I just need to do something to get myself out of this state. Alhamdulillah, I paid my family back and I'm so pleased about that. But, before Malik al-Maut comes to take my soul from my body, which, we're not guaranteed tomorrow, I just thought, I just want to do something to pay this remainder of debt, which, is my duty to do so. So I thought I just have to do something. So my motivation was, really, really strong. And you just put your mind to it and make it happen. And alhamdulillah, here's the result of it.
Alhamdulillah, that's amazing. So of course, we want people to pick up the book and read your story. Just letting people know that, the story kind of do not put any spoilers in place, but it sort of starts off with you in the book explaining your younger years and how you had a spiritual awakening as you got older, post 9/11 and everything that happened. And after that, in terms of what happened with your career and work at Dubai, you've explained a little bit of that, which is the career was going well and then something happened which put you into debt. And it's from that moment onwards, really, which spurred you to, rebuild your life and come to a stage where you're at now, which is, you've written a book, you're active in your family life, you're debt free, inshallah, you're in a more healthy space than you were prior, alhamdulillah. So I think that's kind of like, inshallah, what people can read. And what that then did for you is, what I want to understand is, was it the process of writing and reflecting back on all of those situations that had occurred that made you want to then include part two and part three in the book? Or was there always an intention to include this part two and part three, which is, the purpose of life and the signs of the last days?
I think it was obviously, once I had my spiritual awakening, I came back onto the path, which is chapter 5 of the book. That's what I was living, and that's obviously, what I believe, what we all believe, is the true nature of existence. Why are we here on this earth? We're here to worship the creator of the universe. And what is the ultimate success of this life? The ultimate success is to, be rewarded with Jannah, inshallah. And as I said earlier, I mean, initially it was just to do the memoir, but in the back of my mind, I guess there was a desire to communicate, the purpose of life. Why are we, if you look at the world today, we are spiraling towards the end times. The vast majority of the lesser signs are all clear. They've happened and they're happening. We're seeing them with our own eyes. There's only a real small handful left, and then we then roll into the major signs. So we are spiraling towards this end time. So it was a desire to wake up our community, wake up the world, really, everyone, to say, look, this is the true nature of existence and this is what's happening. So in the back of my mind, that was there. But I think as I was doing the memoir, because I said it was very cathartic, I think the parts 2 and 3 then really became even more important. And I think when you look at the book, actually, this part 1, my story actually ends up not being, the smallest part of the book anyway. So no, absolutely. It was my desire to just, communicate to the world, the reality of this life, and as I was, every day I got into the habit, as I said, of going to Fajr in the masjid and then reading Quran after that. So every morning, I read the Quran, and reading the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the book, the Quran is a guidance for us. It's and so many times he's mentioned hayat dunya, the life of this world. And I think that's why I decided to call it that, the life of this world. And it was, my hope is that inshallah, qadr of Allah, I hope that this book is useful to the youth, because, when you look at the trappings of, I mean, as I said, I wrote in my book, as I decided to write this as a message to humanity and a legacy for my children. So my children can see my life, written down, but also, help them navigate the strange times that we're living in, and give people the confidence, because especially the youth, there's so much temptation and so much distraction to them, that keep them away from the path and deviate them from the path. And I hope that my book is a message, because you see my journey, you see me being distracted and being deviated, trying to pursue a career in music, trying to do all of those things, but then realizing why we're here on this earth, and then transitioning. And I hope that I can save, our youth that period where they are being distracted and deviated, and from an early age, stay strong on Sirat al-Mustaqim, on the right path, and live their entire lives, on Sirat al-Mustaqim, so that, they hopefully, they can, secure a place in Jannah, qadr of Allah, and not have the life of this world distract them, and because, as I say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us so many times around how the life of this world is a delusion, it's amusement, it's play, what true success is. And I just hope that the book is able to help people, whether you're Muslim or not Muslim. If people are Muslim, I hope it helps them, keep on the right path and see my journey. And if you're not Muslim, I hope it, because we have so much, unfortunately, bigotry and hatred towards Islam due to the media. And obviously that's mentioned, in chapter 14. And hopefully it opens their eyes as to the beauty and the truth of our faith. And so I hope, inshallah, I hope that this is a catalyst to get them to read the Quran, and if Allah's intention is for them to be guided, alhamdulillah. I hope that my book has helped them doing that. But even if not that, because everything's in Allah's hands, at least give them a better understanding of our faith and to see the beauty of our faith, and to all of the stereotypes and misconceptions that are now so widespread in today's society, to alleviate that and for people to have a better understanding, of our faith, so we can have, better dialogue rather than all of this hatred that we have currently.
I think that's an incredibly noble intention behind your book. And, it's not just you're writing this just to be able to document things that have happened in your life, but actually you want to use that as a catalyst to be able to encourage other people to reflect upon their own lives and their own experiences as well. And so that's kind of like why I asked you that question of whether, part 2 and 3 came, I guess, from part 1, because it's as if the experiences that you've had in your life have then spurred you to really start to reflect and understand what is the bigger purpose of all of these things that I've gone through. It's not just that I've gone through them. There's actually a whole reason for me to have gone through these things, because it sort of points me in the direction of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all of this for, and where it's on heading. And so if you don't mind, if you can share with us, a couple, one or more than one, like really key lesson from all of your experiences that have kind of pointed you in the direction of understanding the purpose of your life. So what moments in your story really connect to you now understanding, okay, this is the bigger picture now? Is it in there? Is it the part where you go on Hajj? Is it the part where you're in debt? What would you say is like, well, it could be everything, but maybe you could pick out a couple.
I think you know what, it is a mixture of everything. But I think, the me first going on Hajj was the real catalyst. Because as I said, before, from my teenage years up until my mid to late 20s, I wasn't really on the path. I think I wasn't praying 5 times a day. I'd go to Jummah and I'd fast during Ramadan. It was almost like part-time. But then the rest of the year, I was pursuing a career in music. I was playing, I'd work part-time in Selfridges on the weekend. And then Monday to Friday, I was playing in bands, recording and doing that kind of stuff. So I was away from, Sirat al-Mustaqim, should we say. And yeah, going on Hajj first time. So what actually happened with it? Chapter 5 of the book, but I will tell you about it because I think it's something that my sister had just gone on Hajj and she came back and she had 3 young children, which I was living with my parents. I'm the youngest of 5, so I was living with my parents at the time. All my older brothers and sisters were all married and, starting their family. So my sister had 3 young kids, but she went on Hajj with her family. And when she came back, she telling us about the experience, my mom said, look, I want to go on Hajj next year. Now, I'm the only one that's free because I work part-time. I'm pursuing career music. My big sister said, well, he can take you because that time, you needed a mahram to go on Hajj. So it was all of a sudden, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go on Hajj next year. And I was not ready. I was not ready to do Hajj. I said I wasn't in the path. And whilst I didn't say it internally, I was thinking, no, I was panicking. I'm like, I can't do Hajj next year. I'm not ready. But my brother stepped up and said, Mum, I'll take you. And I was,
is this the same brother that also took your family to Umrah?
Yeah, same my brother. I've got one brother. I've got 3 sisters, one brother. So my older brother, he said, I'll take you. So then my brother was going to take my mum to Hajj, and I was like, phew, got away with that. And then 6 months down the line, as they're sort of arranging everything, my brother's wife was pregnant, and she was due their second child. around the time we were going to go to Hajj. And so then my brother said, Mom, I don't think I can go now because, my wife's expecting and my second child is going to be born. And so then all of a sudden, the pressure, my sister's like, well, he can take you. The little one can take you. So I'm like, and I thought, I'll get out of this. I have to step up. I have to do this for my mum. So then I thought, okay, I'll do it. And I started to then, just something where I started to learn about what I need to do on Hajj and, prepare myself to go on Hajj, take my mum. And then subhanAllah, literally just as we were, about a month or two from going, everything booked. My brother's wife said to my brother, look, you made the intention to go Hajj. You shouldn't let anything in this dunya stop you. And, you should go. And so then my brother quickly came back and said, right, I'm going to come. I'm going to come. And obviously by then it was too late for me to back out because everything was booked. So alhamdulillah, me, my brother and my mum went.
Oh,
and it was the most amazing experience, I've had just in terms of awakening and just, it was so humbling, seeing millions of people all trying to do the same thing at the same time. It just teaches you patience. It teaches you, it was so humbling.
And how did that, how did, and I know there's a very specific bit in Hajj, which I want people to read, right?
Yeah.
I want people to read, so I don't want you to spoil it.
Sure.
But how does then you experiencing that Hajj, get you to understand the purpose of this life then? Because people go on Hajj all the time and they still go back to their normal routine.
Of course. Yeah.
Why is it that Hajj is something that changes you then?
I think it was just the whole experience, which, obviously, I don't want to spoil it as well for people because, I think it was, as far as I'm concerned, it was, a miraculous experience. It was, it was delving into the unseen.
Right. Okay.
And it really shook me awake to say, we are here to worship Allah. And as I said, from that moment when I came back, I started praying 5 times a day, started reading the Quran, started learning, started reading. And I think that's really what happened. So that was obviously the catalyst.
Sure.
And then from then on, every day, I'm learning, I'm reading different books, I'm practicing. And I think, the next sort of couple of decades of all of that reading and learning and just experience, just amalgamated into the book.
MashaAllah, that's amazing. Okay, just to round off, so you were telling me when you first reached out to me, you said that this is something which it's not just your project, but actually you've got your children involved in this project. So it's kind of become a parent and child project, and I think that's incredible. So how have you got your children involved in all of this?
Yeah, so basically my eldest, mashallah, may Allah, protect all of our children and keep them on Sirat al-Mustaqim. And, he's very, very, great with IT. He's built his own computer. He's got that sort of mind. So he basically designed the cover. So the front cover, the back cover, everything, he designed that. And so he's done that, and he helps me with, a lot of social media stuff. So obviously to try and promote the book, I've gone on this journey of starting on social media. So I do TikToks every day, just giving little bits of, knowledge from the book. And so, he helps me when I'm trying to do, more sort of, so my first, I guess, advert, he designs it all, and he does all of this sort of technical stuff. And then my daughter, she helps me with, obviously I'm no good with social media. I'm an old man, so, this is all sort of new to me. So, although I'm doing mainly myself, because obviously they got the school, but, she helps me with any time I need. I said, oh, what's this? I can't do this. What's this? So she sort of fiddles about and gets me, and they sort of give me advice. I mean, they say to me, your posts, you need to do this, you need to do that. But, so they're my social media advisors and things like that. But I just do it. So again, now that I don't have a book to write, I literally, when I come back from Fajr in the Masjid, I sit down, because again, I couldn't do this during the day because the kids are here and it's mayhem. So after Fajr, when I come back, I sit down, I record my little post that I'm going to do for that day, and then just post it out that morning.
Nice.
And so my kids just help me with that, and anything that I need doing that I just don't get or understand, they sort of put little frilly bits and whatnot. So,
No, that's beautiful. That's incredible. I think that's an amazing way to go about it. I like the fact that you had a personal project that you pursued in, those early mornings with your family asleep. So it was something that you were able to fulfill for yourself, right? And this is something that a lot of dads that I speak to, especially on kind of the coaching programs, where they say that, before I became a father, I had all these ambitious goals. And some of them I kind of had to give up because I just couldn't find the time for it or didn't have enough energy for it to be able to do it. And I always remind them that these two aren't two separate things. Like, you achieving your goals is part of you being a good dad. It's part of your fatherhood journey. And so you need to take that time out away from your family to do certain things that is going to satisfy and fulfill you. So you had that in the process of writing the book. But now what you've also done is that you've then also turned that passion, that personal passion, into a family project. And so now your kids are actually involved in your personal passions as well, which is something that will then help sustain it and also makes them feel like they're part of that passion as well. And in early on in my being a dad, I remember one of the scholars, he was, I was asking, how do you as a scholar, given that you do so many talks and late nights and travel and whatnot, still have a good relationship and a good kind of, you have availability for your children and tarbiyah for your children and things like that. And he was saying, one of the ways that he does it is that he makes them feel like they're also involved in his da'wah and his work and what he does. So he takes them with him to the masjid when he's doing a lecture, or he helps them prepare for that lecture. So you might ask them, okay, can you pull that book off the shelf? I need that to make some notes. Or can you please, find these particular pages? And all the way to the extent of, can you set up this camera? Because of, I'm going to record a reminder and things like that. And so they're able to really see, okay, this is what dad does. This is what dad's passionate about. We're also involved in it. We like it. We've got some bonding time here. So I think that's something quite incredible that you managed to kind of put that all together.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And I think what was really touching for me is my daughter was the first one in the family to read the book. So when she read it, she wrote a note and put it in I didn't see it. She put it in my wallet. And when I found it, it was really a teary moment. She said, "Dad, I'm so proud of you for what you've done." And she said reading the book was so emotional for me. Hearing, your life before, reading about your life before us, and the stuff that you went through and what you did, and it's so emotional for me. And she said, and then the second and third parts is, it was so enlightening. And whilst obviously, we are teaching our kids, I think the most important thing is that we bring them up on Sirat al-Mustaqim. I know, coming from an Asian parent, I remember that background. I remember when our parents, when we were kids, the important thing was you have to get 100% in your exam. But I remember my big sister, she got, I think I must have been 4 or 5 at the time, and she'd done her first exam and she got 98%. And my dad's like, "Where's the other 2%?" But our generation now, yes, of course, achieving in academia is we'd encourage our children, but I think, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that they recognize and stay on Sirat al-Mustaqim, because that is going to bring them the ultimate success. So I say to my kids, look, as long as you do your best, but the most important thing is that you understand why we're here, purpose of life, and achieve the ultimate success. You stay on Sirat al-Mustaqim, you stay worshiping your creator, you hold on to the deen, because one of the signs of the end times is that, holding onto your deen is like holding onto hot coals, and we are in those times now. So, making sure our kids are, on the right path, it is so important. And I think that's the priority over any kind of material success or what people in society believe is success, which is wealth, cars, money, houses, this, that. That's, if you're blessed with it, alhamdulillah, but that's not success in this world. Success in this world is having that inner peace, knowing that you're on Sirat al-Mustaqim. And I think, that's important for our children.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've got an issue that coming in here soon. Jazakallah khair. No, I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up and end the podcast, actually. So where can people find this book?
Yes, so it's available on Amazon. You just go on amazon.co.uk or .com or wherever you are in the world, and you can get it on Amazon. Anyone who knows me, and I'm happy to people can reach out to me. My website is myname.com. You can reach out to me and I can get author copies, and I can get copies slightly cheaper than Amazon. Unfortunately, a little bit disappointed that Amazon are charging what they're charging, but the print cost, because of, I think it's the design and the length of the book is such. But yeah, no, it's available on Amazon, or please reach out to me personally, and I'll get you a copy and even sign it off if people want that.
Inshallah. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Jazakallah khair for coming on the podcast. And Jazakallah khair for writing the book. Inshallah, I'm going to delve in more. I haven't managed to get into everything yet, but there's a lot for me to read. So inshallah, I'm going to give you feedback and everything once I've read everything. So I'm looking forward to it, inshallah. And just having this conversation and this podcast has given me motivation to even start writing myself,
Inshallah. Yeah, absolutely. I'd recommend it. It's a wonderful experience. And, as I said, whatever we can do, to I guess it likes to encourage our children. I think I said, I think the kids, once they realized what I was doing, and so once, they found out I was writing a book, I think they were inspired. They were inspired by it. So, yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Jazakallah khair, brother Wasim, and inshallah we'll see you in the next one. If we invite you on again, and if you accept our invite for the next one, we'll happy to have you, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alright guys, so if you enjoyed that video, please do subscribe and follow me on TikTok and Instagram for more dad related content. Check out some of my previous videos and look forward to the next ones.